Greetings. I'm Dr. Rhonda Jeter, Dean of the College of Education. I want to welcome you to the 4th Annual James E. Proctor Forum on Education, Leadership, and Innovation. First, I want to welcome the Proctor family, especially Delegate Susie Proctor and Stephanie Proctor Williams. I want to extend a special welcome to our alumni, the current students, faculty, staff, and friends of Bowie State University. I want to greet the president, Dr. Aminta H. Breaux, and the provost, Dr. Carl Goodman. We appreciate your support for this event. Lastly, I want to give a special thank you to the people who put this event together: University Relations and Marketing, Institutional Advancement, Dr. Kametta Hairston, Ms. Triopia Washington, Dr. Otis Thomas, and the BSU Proctor event team in the College of Education. I want to give special acknowledgement to the Montgomery College TV station production team who put it all together. So why are we all here? To honor the late Delegate James E. Proctor for the building where the College of Education is housed. We were named for that. His work in the state legislature really made a difference at BSU and for the College of Education, where he earned 2 degrees. He championed the College of Education and helped to gain important funding that might have been lost if he were not there to fight for us. His family and the College of Education honor him every year during American Education Week. This event is now a university signature event. So as we enter into our program, remember, educators are special people who change lives and make a difference. Once again, welcome to Bowie State University.
Greetings, and I wish you all well. I'm Carl Goodman, and I have the distinct pleasure of serving as Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs at Bowie State University. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to Bowie State University with its rich legacy and history in being the oldest HBCU in the state of Maryland and one of the oldest HBCUs in the country. Situated in Bowie, Maryland, within Prince George's County, BSU is highly recognized with its outstanding faculty, staff, and administrators as one of the fastest growing universities in the state of Maryland, but it also known as a leader in teacher education, computer science and technology, fine and performing arts, natural sciences and nursing, business, social and behavioral sciences, entrepreneurship, social justice, and civic engagement. More importantly, what makes Bowie State University so unique is our remarkable 6,200 student body who are academically gifted, talented, and bold. Thank you again for joining us today for the virtual James E. Proctor Jr. Forum on Education, Leadership, and Innovation. Welcome again to Bowie State University.
Thank you, Provost Goodman. We are in for a special treat today. The theme of our event is College in a Pandemic World, Supporting Students. Today, we will be featuring the insights and perspectives from 2 dynamic Maryland College presidents, Dr. DeRionne P. Pollard, president of Montgomery College, and Dr. Aminta Breaux, president of Bowie State University. Let me tell you a few things about each of them. Since 2010, Dr. Pollard has served as president of Montgomery College, a 3-campus community college with 56,000 credit and non-credit students. She spearheaded the development of a new Montgomery College mission and strategic plan. She has partnered actively with Montgomery County Public Schools and the universities at Shady Grove in the creation of Achieving Collegiate Excellence and Success, ACES, a support program designed to help students transition from high school to college completion. Dr. Breaux has served as the 10th president and first female president of Bowie State University since 2017. Bringing more than 30 years of diverse higher education leadership experience to the position. As president, she is committed to ensuring that every student at Bowie State University develops an entrepreneurial mindset to achieve success in the rapidly changing workplace and communities. She is dedicated to building on the legacy and rich history of Maryland's oldest historically Black university, with a strategic focus of ensuring the long-term viability of the institution. Today, we will have a brief conversation with the 2 presidents on the following topics. What is the impact of COVID-19 on your students, parents, faculty, and staff? How important are mental health and self-care during this crisis? What has history taught us about voting rights and social justice? How have current events impacted conversations on campuses today? The following 3 segments will begin with brief introductory remarks from a student representing a department in the BSU College of Education.
Hello, my name is Elton Wright. I'm a senior elementary education major completing my last semester as an intern in a 3rd grade classroom. I'm looking to graduate on December 18, 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the Bowie State University community in its entirety. It has affected the campus atmosphere, that sense of being connected. From the student's perspective, pursuing higher education is a lifelong dream, an opportunity that may come along once in a lifetime. Many students are the first in their families to attend college. Students are missing full access to being on campus and participating in the rich HBCU cultural experiences, like showing their school spirit and supporting Bulldog Nation in sporting events, and spending an evening at a theatrical performance or concerts by the BSU Choir. The warm and welcoming atmosphere associated with being on campus is lost. I often hear professors say how much they miss interacting with their students in person. The professors and staff, with their endearing nature, have a history of enriching the lives of their students academically and preparing them to carry the charge to the next generation. These collaborative interactions have been replaced with Zoom screens. The feeling of isolation and emotional stress you experience from hours of sitting in front of a computer screen cannot be overemphasized. It affects students, faculty, and staff alike. Many college-bound students have returned home to continue their education virtually due to campus housing closures and lack of employment in some cases. An overarching part of the HBCU experience is the spiritual faith that makes us and sustains us, and the importance of not forgetting where we came from. The COVID-19 pandemic has given a new meaning to the HBCU legacy and all that it represents. And this is how we do it.
Hello, I'm Aminta Breaux, the very proud 10th president of Bowie State University, and I'm very pleased to be here sharing this stage, albeit virtually, with my dear colleague, Dr. Pollard from Montgomery College. It's great to see you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Breaux. I've been looking forward to this for some time, and the opportunity to share this space with you, albeit virtual, is certainly one that will hopefully mark the start of a wonderful relationship and continued conversations, and hopefully ones we'll be able to have in person in the near future.
I'm sure that will happen very, very soon. We'll make it happen. I would like to begin, before we jump into our first topic, to also acknowledge Stephanie Williams for her leadership on the James E. Proctor Lecture, and a big thank you to our alumni, Delegate Susie Proctor, and to the entire Proctor family for once again sponsoring this event and also continuing to support Bowie State University as we continue what we call our Racing to Excellence journey, the name of our strategic plan here at Bowie State University. Thanks to all for your support throughout this year, especially, but as always, each and every year for what you do for BSU. I'd like to begin with answering the question at hand, and that is the impact of COVID-19 on our faculty, staff, and students in our entire community. It has indeed, COVID-19 had a significant impact on our campus community, as one might expect. Lives have been touched through illness, as well as, unfortunately, the deaths that have been experienced throughout this, our country and around the world. Every one of us has been touched by the impact of COVID-19, but also with a second crisis that we have faced, and that is the crisis of social injustice in our society, as well as the intersectionality of the two. And so everyone has been impacted, and as we started this academic year, we went into it with, at the top of our guiding principles, safety first, and making sure that we opened the campus in a way that was recognizing safety was paramount to our thinking and how we deliver education in this new normal, in this different environment, and indeed during these crises. Our model that we have implemented here is known as the first-year hybrid intensive model, meaning that any first-year student that wanted to be here on the campus, we wanted to afford an opportunity for them to engage with Bowie State University as the first HBCU in the state of Maryland. We're known as being this warm and welcoming environment, and we wanted to ensure that they connected with their new institution of higher learning. We couldn't bring back over 6,200 students. Our enrollment is up. I'm very pleased to say that. Retention is up, but we knew we couldn't safely return every student back to the campus. So what did we do? We employed a number of safety strategies, from new protocols, symptom monitoring, testing, and so much more to ensure safety first was paramount in our guiding principles. Most of our students are still learning virtually, while we have provided our first-year students with some in-classroom learning experiences with our new protocols in place. And I'll stop there. And there's so much more we could share, but we want to allow more time for dialogue. And so I'll stop here, President Pollard.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Breaux. And in the reality that you describe is certainly very similar to that of Montgomery College. We have the honor of serving approximately 55,000 students on 3 campuses. So the significance of the decisions we make, just as you are so impactful on so many different people. We had a couple of guiding principles that led us in this process. One, as you described, this idea of health and safety that had to figure paramount for both students and employees. But second, and probably more importantly for us, has also been with the student, is recognizing that we need to treat our students both as learners and as consumers. And if we were to do that effectively, we had to make decisions early about the organization so they could plan for that fully, and that we would also adapt in a time that was necessary for us to be able to do so. Because we know that our students oftentimes at a community college are here not because of lack of ambition or choice, but oftentimes because of poverty. And as a result of that, we needed to make sure that they had access to the services and resources that would help them be successful and to keep costs at a level that would be manageable for them. As such, we did a couple of things I think that are pretty important here. We recognize the vulnerability of our students. Roughly 44% of our students described having lost work as a result of COVID. Another 33% described having lost income or hours at work. So as a result of that, we made decisions to redirect emergency funding to students to help them directly with Wi-Fi, technology, rent, food, all the types of things that we need to be thoughtful about. And we also recognize very intentionally that our students needed to have us adapt as an organization, delivering services from admissions and enrollment to tutoring and library services in a remote fashion, knowing that our coaching services could be done now, not just at 9 o'clock in the morning, but 9 o'clock in the evening, and really in a lot of ways helping us as an organization leapfrog, because we know that this moment that we're in is not going to be the last moment we experience. And as a result of that, we have to be prepared to do the work that's necessary for our students, and certainly recognizing that higher education will have to evolve. So I have a little sticky on my computer that says on here, this is not a transition, it's an evolution. And we've been very deeply committed to this work of treating our students as consumers and as learners, while also recognizing that our organization must adapt to respond to their needs and be prepared for the future of higher education.
Hello, my name is Imani Johnson, and I'm a student in the Master of Arts in Mental Health Counseling program. I believe that mental health and self-care are extremely important during this COVID-19 crisis. So much so that having a healthy frame of reference when it comes to mental health can be the difference between life and death for some. We're living in times where people are isolated and alone more than ever. Those who are in the hospital are unable to have visitors due to health hazards. New parents are unable to bring in their families and support systems when they are bringing children into this world, and domestic violence is at an all-time high. Without the presence of strong mental health systems and self-care applications, the survival and well-being of every individual is put into jeopardy. Taking care of the mind, body, and spirit while remaining mindful of the world around us will help us to remain in good spirits while uplifting those in our social circles who are struggling to keep joy and light in their minds, hearts, and spirits.
So the issue of mental health is a challenging one for our society. It has been for a very, very long time, because unlike a physical health issue where it's visible, mental health is not always apparent, and how we address mental health continues to challenge us as a society. Yet it is so very important for us to address during a time of crisis and after the crisis. It's important for us to recognize in other individuals the stressors that are created through a crisis. And we talked already about two crises. We've talked about COVID-19. We've talked about social justice issues that continue to cause anxiety in our communities and create stressors. So on the college campus, as well as in our general community, these are issues that we've got to combat. And unfortunately, we've seen unfortunate incidents occurring in our society where it concerns policing. And these have been very vivid images, tragic images that we continue to have haunt us as we see them repeated over and over again in the media. So it's natural that as a population, we're facing anxiety, we're facing stress, and we have seen, as has been reported through the medical profession, an uptick in those seeking counseling, which is a good thing, individuals seeking medications for depression and other issues related to these crises and what we're experiencing. It's natural as human beings that we have these reactions, but it's also something that we have to recognize, and if we don't identify the problem, it's hard to solve it. So yes, we have seen issues on the campus and among our student population, as we see in the general population. Here at Bowie State University, we've taken steps and measures to address the issues, including, as we all are in these virtual environments, making sure that we continue to provide counseling services through our counseling department, continuing to have recreation for our students who are on the campus, enjoying one another's company, because we are social creatures. Human beings are social. We need to be next to each other, see each other. One of the most challenging aspects of addressing COVID-19 has been ensuring that individuals are staying 6 feet apart, because we're used to being close to each other. And that's not just an issue here on this campus, but in our general population. And so these are adjustments we've all had to make during this time of crisis. And it's caused an upheaval in our campus community, in our families. Many of us cannot see our families, and we're coming up on Thanksgiving, when we ordinarily would be looking toward, oh, we're going to get together with aunts and uncles and extended family members, and yet here we are in this new normal. So this has caused an upheaval. It has caused depression for some, anxiety, emotional stress, but it's important that we identify it. And just as we would, if we looked at someone and saw they had a broken leg, we would say, oh, you need to address that. You need to get that fixed. That's the same thing we have to do through this emotional upheaval when we see someone in distress who's going through an emotional crisis or a mental health crisis. Say, let's get you some help. Through counseling, spiritual help can be very helpful and supportive. Exercising, getting recreation, enjoying each other's company, but doing so in a safe manner with 6 feet apart, at least 6 feet apart, with our mask on. But we can still socialize, but at a distance. But we've got to address that this is an experience and it's real. It's not fake. It might not be as apparent as a broken leg or something that you do physically, but it does exist. And it is a normal reaction to what we're facing today. But the key is let's get each other some support, reach out to each other and say, hi, how are you doing? What we've done in terms of the educational pivot that we've made is encouraging our faculty members and our staff who are here supporting our students to check in with our students, check in with other employees. Employees on the campus have access to help as well. So all of this combined is what we need to do for one another to make sure we are indeed taking care of ourselves. You know that metaphor when you get on the airplane and you reach a certain altitude and the airplane loses altitude, the face mask drops down. What do? You put the mask on yourself first, and then you help somebody else. I'll leave you with that.
What I think is so important about this is that we situate mental health as a part of a complete wellness strategy. And I think Montgomery College over the last several years has really been focused on wellness as an act of self-preservation, but also an act of love and compassion. So this idea of understanding how we then translate this into this type of environment where we're remote and not able, as Dr. Breaux says, to see each other, to feel each other, we have to figure out how to replicate that. I think first we acknowledge that it exists, and the fact that we even pose this question and are willing and able to talk about it is important because there's still so much stigma attached to mental health. So this idea of seeing mental health as a part of a wellness strategy for physical, mental, emotional health is so essential for us. As a result of that, our student life area has been robust in the work that they've been doing to help figure out strategies to help students acknowledge and understand what mental health is, to understand that they have a responsibility to help protect themselves in this space, but also to help them understand what the resources are that are available in this same time, to create common opportunities for dialogue, to have fun activities that may get them out of the house, but also may get them in a way to be able to laugh and interact with each other, and also know if you need help, where to go for that help. We have that same reality for our employees, recognizing that this is, again, very isolating in a lot of ways. The stressors are profound. So making sure that employees have activities to engage in within the college community, and conversely, that these same employees have an opportunity to know where they can get those resources when they need them outside of the workday. So we are very privileged, I think, to work in organizations that recognize that mental health is essential to student success and employee engagement, and that we try to make those resources available to our employees as frequently and as often as we can.
Good advice. Very good advice.
Hello, my name is Derek Coley, and I'm currently a doctoral student in the Educational Leadership Program at Bowie State University. Here we are in 2020, in the midst of a global pandemic, and across our televisions and social media devices, we see the image of George Floyd being crushed to death. Some even say that when he cried out the word mama, a collective spiritual consciousness stirred among African Americans across this country. Then the image of Ahmaud Arbery, killed while simply jogging, and the death of Breonna Taylor in her sleep. These acts of social injustice are just too much. Fannie Lou Hamer once cried out, "I am sick and tired of being sick and tired." We have to do better as a nation. We have to do better as a country. The movement we are seeing today, with so many people, not just African Americans, standing in long lines to vote, is real. While governor after governor in some states choose to close voting locations or request voter IDs, and even militias threatening to harass voters with individuals carrying open firearms is real. People, we cannot be afraid. Several people are not afraid. People are refusing to coward. People have a song deep in their hearts. I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. We must continue to exercise our right to vote and make our voices heard. All of us must do our part to exercise our right to vote and tell others that you cannot march to honor George, Ahmaud, or Breonna, and so many others without casting a ballot to let your voice be known and to let their voices be heard from the grave. The time is now for students across this country, and particularly at Bowie State University, to stand up and to be counted. To not only vote, but we must also continue to achieve academic excellence, strive to make a difference in our families, our community, our state, and this nation. So many have died and sacrificed for us to be here and live free. Immigrating to Canada is not an option. Get out and vote. Thank you.
We know that voting rights are a profound opportunity for us as Americans to exercise our vote in the democracy of our country, to exercise our vote, to understand that we are in this place committed to preserving our way of life, but also recognizing that we need leadership that helps us adapt and be actively engaged in that process. So for us at the college, we have been decidedly focused on engaging our students and our employees around voting. And part of that means, one, that we help them understand what voting represents and why, and to understand that for huge portions of this country's history, the voting rights of some have been relegated and diminished in an effort to keep people not having actualization of their own lives, and to help them recognize that voting is not just something you do because it's convenient. For us, we see it as a necessary act. And I think after that we want our students to also understand that good voters are informed voters. So we have had an active engagement, MC Vote, at the college, and we've had students come together in nonpartisan commitment to looking at how they can engage members of the college community, both internal and external, around voting. And then they've been very deliberate in helping them understand about the decisions from the top of the ballot, where we all tend to focus on whatever the national or federal election is, but to think about voting as a local act of voicing. And is where you get to talk about the communities in which you live in. And then how much this is coupled with the idea that at the end of the day, and I often say, if you don't vote, you've lost your right to complain. So to understand that there have been people who've died for our ability to vote. There have been people who've been silenced and had to fight in such a way to create opportunities for us to vote. And it is not just something that we should opt to do as citizens of this country. Certainly we watch around the globe where people are fighting to do this, but our own legacy here would demand that we engage our students and our employees in this, and to be highly informed voters as they step in. So I'm very pleased with the work we've been doing and look forward to seeing how students and employees process this moment. And based on what we're seeing about voter engagement thus far, I think this is going to go down as one of those milestone moments for our country as we think about the future of our democracy.
I think you raised some very, very critical points in your comments, President Pollard. In answering the question, what has history taught us about voting rights and social justice, I would start with, it's important to know your history and know what has gone on before. President Pollard mentioned those who have gone on before us, knowing what they fought through to bring us to this point in our country where we have the right and the responsibility to vote. It doesn't come lightly. It didn't come easily. And it's important that we learn from our history that the responsibility we have doesn't stop when you leave the polls. We have to remain vigilant as citizens of this democratic society in ensuring that all of the rights in our right to vote, that it is fulfilled and the laws are enacted in ways that bring us greater justice and equity in our society. So voting is extremely important, but then what happens after you go to the polls? Those individuals you voted for, are they fulfilling and helping us all live up to what it means to live in a democratic society? And not lose sight of what happens after the fact, because we know that, there have been rights given to us and rights that have been taken away. And they can be taken away. So living in a free and democratic society comes with rights and responsibilities. We know that from our history, when the 15th Amendment was passed in 1870, giving the right to vote to newly freed slaves, African-American men. Well, we know that that wasn't the be-all and end-all, right? Because it wasn't until in the 1960s, 1965 Civil Rights Act that we actually were able to have yet another law put on the books that made it possible for individuals to actually exercise their right to vote. We know that the 19th Amendment, ratified in 1920, gave American women the right to vote. But we also know that African American women and many others were not fully free to exercise their right to vote. So it's not enough that you see these laws put into place. We have to remain vigilant. That's what our history tells us, that, living in a free and just society, it's not free. It requires you and me and every one of us as a citizen of this great nation every day paying attention and exercising our right to our freedoms, and also staying vigilant so that we don't lose the rights that so many who went on before us have provided us the opportunity to enjoy today. And as we are in this program today, we know the election has happened. So I want to encourage each and every one who's on this, participating in this lecture today, to not just look at, okay, that's done. Well, the question is now what? Where do we go from here? Because everything isn't great and wonderful as we wake up today. Everything is not right. And I have to imagine that there's so much more that we as a community, as one, can come together and say, we're going to make it better. But it's going to take all of us staying focused on our rights, but our responsibility as citizens and what that means. And what does that mean for education? Education has a role to play, as President Pollard said earlier, that it's important when you go to the polls, what are you voting for? Who are you voting for? Why are you voting? And that's where post-secondary education, our higher ed institutions come into play to help you think critically, analyze issues, discern fact from fiction. That's why we're here. And in order to us to live out a full, true, just society, it requires education and making sure that every citizen has a right to education.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Proctor Williams, and on behalf of James E. Proctor Jr.'s family, it's my pleasure to present this scholarship in his honor. Jim was a proud alum of Bowie State University who never forgot the support and encouragement he received while working full-time, raising a family, and earning 2 degrees from BSU. As a father, a teacher, an administrator, and a legislator, Jim Proctor always put education first. While serving as a state delegate, Jim Proctor led the efforts to ensure over $200 million in state funding for the construction of the Fine and Performing Arts Center, as well as the Center for Natural Sciences, Mathematics, and Nursing right here on the BSU campus. This endowed scholarship reflects his love of Bowie State University and commitment to the teaching profession, as it recognizes the accomplishments of a student in the College of Education. The 2020 recipient of the James E. Proctor Jr. Endowed Scholarship is Layton Williams. Layton is a senior majoring in elementary education in the Department of Teaching, Learning, and Professional Development within the College of Education, where he is recognized as a leader among his peers. Layton has received many awards for his academic and leadership accomplishments, including the Bowie Black Male Educator and Leader Alliance Outstanding Student Leader Award. He was also the 2019 recipient of the James E. Proctor Jr. Endowed Scholarship. So the primary objective of the James E. Proctor Jr. Endowed Scholarship is to encourage and empower future leaders in the field of education. Layton most certainly is a future in education, and we wish him well. Congratulations, Layton.
Hello, my name is Layton Williams, and I'm thrilled to be the recipient of the James E. Proctor Endowed Scholarship Fund. I'm a senior elementary education major here at Bowie State University, and an accomplished student leader. This year, I was elected by my peers to serve as the Student Government Association's vice president after serving as the executive secretary on the last administration. Additionally, I'm a founding undergraduate fellow and leadership team member in the Center for Research and Mentoring of Black male students and teachers. I'm particularly grateful to the family of James E. Proctor Jr. for establishing the scholarship to recognize students such as myself in the College of Education. I'm proud to receive this scholarship that recognizes the commitment that Delegate James E. Proctor Jr. had to the teaching profession, leadership, and excellence. Thank you all.
Greetings, Bowie State family. My name is Dr. Lakeisha Harris, and I am a 1997 graduate of Bowie State University Department of Psychology. I bring you greetings from the Eastern Shore of Maryland. I am currently the Dean for the School of Graduate Studies and Research at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Much like my Bowie State family, UMES has experienced significant impacts of COVID-19. But my Bowie State education has instilled in me the leadership skills needed to lead others during these challenging times. I encourage each of you to use what Bowie State has instilled in you to motivate others and to instill a little bit of hope and faith in others as we all manage this pandemic together. Go Bowie State!
Hello, I'm Dr. Vernon J Hurt, Vice President for Student Affairs at Towson University, and a proud 2001 graduate of Bowie State University, earning my bachelor's degree in psychology in the College of Professional Studies. Without question, it was my experience at BSU that inspired my desire to become a student affairs educator and positively impact the lives of my students the way my life was impacted. From the awesome faculty to the dynamic administrators and the committed staff in every corner of campus, I was fortunate to be surrounded by people every day who cared about me and challenged me to be my best self. That's what it means to be a bulldog. Between the dual pandemics of COVID-19 and racial injustices throughout our nation, 2020 has been a challenging year for all of us. Nevertheless, as educators, we have responded with great creativity and deep care for our students at every level. It was at BSU that we all learned how to be resilient, resourceful, and the importance of remaining committed to excellence no matter what challenges we face. Faculty and students, stay encouraged because despite today's challenges, the future remains bright. Stay strong, stay the course, and go Bulldogs.
Hello, I'm Brent Swinton, Vice President for Institutional Advancement at Bowie State University. I'm so grateful for the dedication of the faculty and staff who provide an excellent and affordable education for over 6,200 students enrolled this academic year. There is no time more fitting than the occasion of the 4th annual James E. Proctor Jr. Forum on Education, Leadership, and Innovation to say thank you to all of our alumni, friends, and supporters within the BSU community for all that you do for our students at this historic institution. Despite these unprecedented and difficult times, Bowie State University is thriving, and it's thriving because of you. I hope you see yourselves in the recent and ongoing flurry of good news about Bowie State University. We are so very proud of our College of Education students, alumni, and faculty. What we now know as Bowie State University first began as a training ground for educators. That rich legacy is manifested today in the careers and accomplishments of generations of educators and administrators who call Bowie State University their alma mater. Bowie State University's College of Education is more than historical legacy. This institution is relevant to the needs of the 21st century. Education innovation is happening here and now. This event is but one shining example of BSU leading the conversation on the future of education. For these reasons and more, I am inviting you to join me as a donor to help secure the future of Maryland's first HBCU and supplier of educators and education leaders who are serving across Maryland, the region, and the nation. The Bowie State University College of Education is truly a worthy investment. Your gift, no matter the size, is an important vote of confidence that will attract larger support from others. This is especially true for donations from Bowie State University graduates. You can donate quickly and securely online, where you can support the James E. Proctor Jr. Endowed Scholarship or the College of Education Annual Fund, or any other designation of your choosing. What matters is that you stand boldly with BSU by supporting our deserving students. And when circumstances allow, please come back to share your experience and your expertise with our future educators and to see how our beautiful campus has evolved and grown. Thank you.